Thank you for subscribing to our channel. Today is Friday, April 2, 2021. Al Jazeera report. Biden offers Ukraine's Zelenskyy support amid Russia tensions. United States President Joe Biden used a first official phone call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy on Friday to offer staunch support in Ukraine's standoff over Russian forces near its border. Washington has been Ukraine's most powerful ally since Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014. But ties were overshadowed by Ukraine's unwilling involvement in events leading to the impeachment trial of Biden's predecessor Donald Trump.
Deutsche Welle report. Suspect, police officer dead in attack at U.S. Capitol. A man rammed a vehicle into two police officers at a barricade outside the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. on Friday before being shot dead by authorities. The Associated Press reported. The attack took place close to where armed insurrectionists stormed the complex housing the U.S. Congress on January 6. Police said a vehicle rammed into two officers protecting the Capitol complex and crashed into a barrier.
Al Jazeera report. Car militia leader Siddiqui Abbas dies from injuries. Armed group. A Central African Republic militia leader blacklisted by the United States and the United Nations for human rights abuses including rape and torture has died from injuries he sustained in November, his armed group said on Friday. Siddiqui Abbas, leader of the Return, Reclamation, Rehabilitation or 3R armed group, died on March 25 at a health center in Kambakota, around 320 kilometers, 199 miles, north of the capital, Bangui. According to a statement signed by General Babo, who described himself as the new leader of the group.
BBC report. Derek Chauvin trial. Homicide chief criticizes force used on George Floyd. Richard Zimmerman was testifying on the fifth day of Mr. Chauvin's murder trial. White officer Mr. Chauvin was filmed kneeling on African-American Mr. Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes last May, sparking global protests. The 45-year-old has denied charges of murder and manslaughter. In his testimony on Friday, Lieutenant Zimmerman said he arrived on the scene after Mr. Floyd's death in order to help ensure evidence was secured and witnesses were found.
Deutsche Welle report. Russia fines Twitter for leaving up content. A Russian court fined Twitter a total of 8.9 million rubles, $116,800, 99,300 euros, on Friday over accusations that the service had failed to delete illegal content. The fine is the latest move taken by Moscow against the microblogging site. It recently slowed its speed as well as threatened to ban it outright, accusing it of hosting content that it said ranged from child pornography to drug abuse. Twitter did not immediately respond to the verdict.
CNN report. John Durham is looking at FBI's launch of Trump campaign probe, sources say. After 2 years of searching for problems with the investigation into Donald Trump's campaign advisors in 2016 and their ties to Russia, federal prosecutor John Durham hasn't found wrongdoing by Obama-era intelligence officials involved who were outside of the FBI. But Durham is still at work, looking at early aspects of the FBI investigation into the campaign. His relatively opaque investigation has now lasted longer than former special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election and prosecution of dozens of Russians and Trump advisors.
CNN report. Queen leaves castle for first in-person engagement this year as debate over abolishing the monarchy reignites in Australia. A version of this story appeared in the April 2 edition of CNN's Royal News, a new weekly dispatch bringing you the inside track on the royal family, what they are up to in public and what's happening behind palace walls. Sign up here. London, CNN. Why does Britain have a monarchy? It's a question as old as the institution itself. But an even bigger one is why countries, beyond the UK, have the same monarchy.
Fox report. Large Florida school district hit by ransomware attack, hackers demanded $40 million. The computer system of one of the nation's largest school districts was hacked by a criminal gang that encrypted district data and demanded $40 million in ransom or it would erase the files and post students' and employees' personal information online. Broward County Public Schools said in a statement Thursday that there is no indication that any personal information has been stolen and that it made no extortion payment to the ransomware gang. which is an apparent pressure tactic, last week posted screenshots of its online negotiations with the district to its site on the dark web.
Al Jazeera report. Biden says his infrastructure plan would create 19 million jobs. President Joe Biden said the sweeping infrastructure proposal he unveiled this week would create 19 million jobs to further boost the U.S. economy's trajectory coming out of the pandemic. Independent analysis shows that if we pass this plan, the economy will create 19 million jobs, Biden said in remarks at the White House Friday. Good jobs. Blue-collar jobs. Jobs that pay well. Biden's $2.25 trillion American Jobs Plan, announced Wednesday, aims to update the country's physical and technological infrastructure and address long-standing economic inequities in the nation.
CNN report. Myanmar junta orders internet blackout as more pro-democracy protesters are detained. Myanmar's military junta has cut all wireless internet services until further notice, in what appears to be part of a concerted effort to control communications and messaging in the Southeast Asian country. Pro-democracy demonstrators have repeatedly filled streets across the country for nearly 2 months in protest after the military overthrew the elected government over claims of election fraud and installed a ruling junta.
CNN report. Hillary Clinton backs repealing the filibuster for voting rights bills. Former Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton has added her name to the chorus of top Democrats who believe it is time to get rid of the Senate filibuster, specifically to pass bills relating to voting rights. Clinton made the comments on Just Something About Her, a podcast hosted by Jennifer Palmieri, the former White House communications director for President Barack Obama, who was also a top aide to Clinton's 2016 campaign.
Fox report. Man charged with trafficking highly venomous snakes out of Georgia home. A South Carolina man is being accused of trafficking highly venomous snakes and other reptiles out of his home in Georgia, the Justice Department says. Ashton Rance, a 35-year-old from Dalzell, was taken into custody this week by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service agents after being charged by a federal grand jury for trafficking vipers and turtles and illegally possessing 2 firearms, the department said in a statement.
Deutsche Welle report. Marine Le Pen, French far-right leader, to quit as party chief. Le Pen said that she would still seek re-election as the RN's candidate for French president, but would hand over the leadership of the party after the next conference in July. Le Pen had previously said she wanted to be the candidate of all French people in next year's election, while obviously being supported by her populist movement. The former lawyer didn't give an indication of her successor during Friday's interview, although some have suggested the party's number 2 and MEP, Jordan Bardella, could become the new RN leader.
Fox report. Taiwan train crash. At least 34 killed, 72 injured. Rescue crews in Taiwan responded Friday to a train derailment on its scenic east coast that killed at least 34 and prompted dozens of passengers to crawl out of windows to safety. The Associated Press reported that the crash occurred on Friday at about 9 a.m. near the Taroko Gorge. There were reportedly 350 passengers on board, many of whom were traveling for the 4-day tomb sweeping festival. The AP reported that a truck somehow fell off a cliff and landed directly in front of the tunnel.
BBC report. Russian surgeons perform heart-op despite hospital fire in Blagoveshchensk. More than 120 people were evacuated and no injuries reported at the hospital in Blagoveshchensk in the Far East. The surgery continued thanks to an emergency electricity cable run into the ground floor operating theater as fans kept the smoke out. The heart patient was evacuated later. Lead surgeon Valentin Filatov said his team had to save this person and we did everything. 8 doctors and nurses were involved in the 2-hour operation, which started just before the fire broke out.
BBC report. Anna Sorokin, fake heiress detained by U.S. immigration authorities. Anna Sorokin, who created a fake persona as Anna Delvey, was taken into custody on 25 March. The 30-year-old is facing deportation to her native Germany after her release from prison in February. She was found guilty in April 2020 of stealing from banks and hotels, having scammed more than $200,000, £153,580. A spokesman for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, agency told the BBC that Sorkin was being held at a county jail in the state of New Jersey.
Thank you for watching 5 p.m. recap. To be notified, you can subscribe our channel and activate the bell.